Sunday fun day. Got a fun little silicone demolding project here today. See what we get from our couple silicone pours. I've got two silicone molds here. This one is a streamliner mold. This one is a kind of a cool fancy perfume bottle I got. So we'll see what happens here. This one's probably going to be easier to pop apart. Let's see if I can get this sucker moving here. I've just got some MDF hot glued around the bottom silicone block we poured the other day. Oh, there we go. Now we're in business. Come on. We're giving it all we got, Scotty. Okay. Let me try cracking this off a little bit. There we go. Nothing fancy, just hot glue, a little bit of wood. Come on. There we go. Okay, now in theory, I did spray the top and the bottom half with a release gel, or with a release coating, I should say. So in theory, this should just pop right apart, I hope. Yep, there we go. There we go. There is our bottom silicone mold right there. Looking pretty fancy. And now the question is, can we get our streamliner out as well? And it looks like that's going to pop out very, very, very easy. There's the streamliner that we started with. Little Hot Wheels Jocko Johnson streamliner. And the inside of our mold cavity on this one looks pretty good. So yeah, what I'm going to be able to do now is take these two halves, put them together, do a resin pour inside of here, and make these out of plastic. If I really, really wanted to, I could also make them out of anything else, I suppose. Clear resin, epoxy, all sorts of good stuff. Yeah, that picks up pretty much all the detail. These castings are getting increasingly difficult to find, so they're starting to become ridiculously expensive. And so that's why I wanted to make a couple of these. Hello in the chat, how you guys all doing? So yeah, now we got a silicone mold of a Jocko Johnson streamliner. That should be good to go. And now this is going to be the fun one. This is a fancy perfume bottle, and I don't remember which side is which in terms of what direction I poured it in at. So I think what I'm going to start to do is just cut down the side here with a razor blade. I'm going to try to peel the cup off of the mold. I think that's the easiest way to start going about this. This is a glass bottle, so I want to be a little bit cautious. I want to try to not break it, because that would be a bummer. Okay, so you can see I just took a little hot glue on the bottom of that, hot glued the bottle to the bottom. So there's my orientation. So I need to cut a seam right down the side here, I think is my best plan of attack. And let's see how this goes. It smells like perfume up in here, which is okay. I will eventually hit the glass, so I got to be a little bit cautious. Trying not to there we go. I hit the glass on the front side. I don't know if I'm going to hit it on the back side or not. See if I can open this up a little bit. My razor blade might not be long enough to actually get all the way down there. I'm trying. I can feel it kind of here and there. I'm hitting right. Most of it's hitting. I'm just missing a little bit right in the center. I'm going to try to throw a piece of wood in here. Maybe I can get that blade down a little bit further. Let's see here. I only need to do this one time. I'll show you why in just a second here. Oh, we are getting so close. All right, I gotta throw another piece of wood in here. I'm just trying to separate that a little bit to get this razor blade down there. There we go. I suppose it would help if I had a pocket knife or something. You know what? I do have a pocket knife. Let me see if I can let's see if we can get the silicone out a little bit easier here. I'm trying really hard not to break the glass because I don't want to end up with glass all over the shop. I think that's cut down all the way. First, like, yeah, don't worry. We're trying. Don't worry. It'll be fine. It's all good. I'm going to cut around the top here just to make sure that the silicone doesn't hang up around our pour spout. I might need to cut the other side of this as well. I don't know. I'm trying not to take the whole mold apart if I don't have to. There we go. Come on. Come on, baby. Got it. Got it. Okay. Beautiful. So this is the fancy bottle shape I started with. We're going to be making these out of carbon fiber and decorative casting acrylic and stuff like that. It's just a cool shape. So, you know, desk art, wall art, whatever. But yeah, there's our silicone mold of our figurine. Pretty cool. So what I'm going to end up doing is basically putting this back into another cup is kind of what I think I'm going to end up doing. Since that was what we used to make our mold of, I should be able to put that silicone back into a cup, pour the resin right down the hole, and I think that's going to work. So yeah, this bottle actually came like this. This is from, I can't remember the name of this, Jean Gaultier, I don't know. I'm not French, so I'm going to butcher the pronunciation on it. Yeah, I don't see the brand on there. Yeah, there it is. Gaultier. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fancy perfume. I'm not a perfume aficionado by any means, so I don't know anything. But yeah, it's a pretty cool bottle. The shape is kind of nice too. So I'm going to end up doing a resin cast and then doing a little bit of tune-up work. Probably change the hips just a little bit. Might add a little bit more detail in here, and probably change the shape of these a little bit too. since we have that capability. But yeah, that's a pretty it's a pretty good little silicone mold. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll work. You know what? I think I can actually pour one of these real quick. Let's see. Where do I want to plan on doing the pour spout on this? So when you do resin casting, one thing you have to think about is where is the air going to release from, right? Because it's obviously got to go somewhere. And if I pour it from the top of the streamliner, which would be like here, got these little pokey things in the front, the front fenders. So that would be a bad idea. I think I want to try to flip it upside down and pour it from the bottom side. I'm just going to have to pour really, really slow to make sure that the air bubbles all release out. So to do that, I'm going to cut a channel into the silicone here. Just with the razor blade. And this is going to be my pour channel, if that makes sense. Sometimes when you're doing a silicone cast, you can kind of pre-plan this stuff out. And you can, when you're doing your clay sculpting and you're doing your mold setup, you can plan on where you're going to have your pour channels. And I'm going to make this one nice and fat on the bottom. I'm going to try to not make blood happen here. So when I go to pour this, I want there to be enough of an open area there that the resin's going to go right down in that cavity like we plan on it. There we go. Just like so. And I think I'm also going to open up this side just a little bit too. Give us a little extra room for that resin going down in there. Now, I don't really want to go all the way down into our tail section here because that's the detail I want to keep. I don't mind doing a little bit of trimming on the bottom side, but I try not to do any trimming on the top side when we do our resin cast. Should be all right. That should be a big enough opening for our resin cast. So yeah, we'll pour the resin down here. We'll go right down that channel. It'll fill up our cavity. Should be good to go, I would hope. I'm going to open this up just a little bit more. They do have fancy tools for this. You don't need to use an X-Acto blade. I just don't happen to have any of my silicone carving tools here at the shop, so they are all at the Hot Wheels bench at the house. That's okay. A razor blade does the same thing as the carving tools. You just got to be a little careful that you don't scratch up the mold surface too much. Try to make nice clean cuts. There we go. I think that's okay. What do you guys think? I think it'll be fine. There we go. So we are set to rock and roll on that one. I am going to get some tape because I do need some tape to hold these molds together. Tape, or I suppose you could use clamps if you want to use clamps. Let me try to find the right tape I'm going to use here. This is just regular clear packing tape. Clear packing tape works fantastic for wrapping around the silicone molds. And the trick here is you really want to try to keep the mold halves nice and tight. I'm just going to work up there slowly but surely. If you don't keep these tight enough, what's going to end up happening is the resin will end up coming out of them, which is no fun. Are you searching gold? I don't know what that means. Am I searching gold? I don't know. Am I? I don't think so. I'm just doing some resin casting. There we go. That looks pretty all right. Going to also wrap the bottom of that just to make sure we don't get any resin coming out of the bottom of our mold as well. Just like so. The cool thing about doing silicone casting is you can use it for literally anything. So if there's some decorative hardware, let's say furniture project, or miscellaneous, like I said, Hot Wheels is what I'm doing with them, but you can duplicate pretty much anything with a silicone mold. So if you've got some rare piece of cabinet hardware that you're trying to replicate, silicone mold, the one that you do have, and then from there, sky's kind of the limit. You can use your mold to make things like pewter, silver, fancy acrylic ones. You could use that to make a small little metal forge and make them out of aluminum or iron. Like I said, sky is pretty much the limit on that one. So, okay, our mold is set to rock and roll. I'm kind of burning up some materials on this one here. So what I'm down to is just the last little bit of my resin. This is going to be a good proof of concept to make sure our mold is actually valid and actually functional. So this stuff is a 50-50. You want half part A, half part B. I'm kind of taking a guess on the volume here. I mean, I could just kill these off, I suppose, right? Yeah, why not? Why not? Those are close enough to being done anyway. I just ran out of silicone doing my silicone pour stuff, so wow, I ended up with just a little bit more B than A. All right, I'm gonna need a bigger cup because that's not going to. Ooh, I have a cup right here. We'll just use the cup I have ready for my silicone. Okay, so again, this is a. If you vibrate the mold, will there be fewer bubbles in the resin? If you vibrate the mold, will there be fewer bubbles in the resin? Yes and no. So what I typically use for getting bubble-free resin is a pressure pot. And I'm not going to do that on this one because this is the first pour, but I have a 5-gallon pressure pot that once I pour these two A and B into the mold, I'll put the mold into a pressure pot. And what that will do is it'll collapse all the bubbles down to just microscopic little teeny tiny itsy bitsy bubbles. You'll never be able to see them. Pressure pot is the best way to doing it. This resin only has an open life of about a minute before it starts going off. So you don't have that long to actually do your pour. When I'm doing silicone stuff, I will do a vacuum degas before I pour the silicone, before I do this silicone molding. But then once we do the resin pours, it goes into a pressure pot. So if you do tap the mold a little bit, you know, you can kind of just, you know, tap it a little bit. This is such a low viscosity resin that the bubbles are going to work itself out no matter what. So we can tap our cup here for just a few seconds, try to work some of the air bubbles to the top. Like I said, we're under a pretty narrow open window in terms of getting this pour done. So we don't want it to go off in the cup before we actually get our resin pour done. And just gonna pour it nice and slow. Oh, come on. That's not good. I didn't cut a big enough channel for my resin to go down. I know that's not full. So we're gonna have to get lucky on this one. I'm gonna run out of time real quick here. We'll see if this actually fills up. I don't know if it's gonna. I will make that adjustment on the next one. I'm gonna have to open up that resin. I'm gonna have to open up that resin pour channel a lot. That resin did not have anywhere to go. This is gonna start going off any time now. All right, so I got lucky there. This looks like it's full of resin. Give that a quick little tappy tap, try to get all those air bubbles out. So right now is typically the point where I would go throw this in a pressure pot real quick. You can see that this is already starting to thicken up a little bit. I'm starting to see it change colors. So yeah, there's a very, very, very minimal work time with this stuff. Which this could become its own art if you really want to try to, you know, do some fancy liquid pouring out of a cup. This is how you would do that. Like so. Yep. I got pretty lucky with that one, guys. Got really lucky with that one. I'm gonna have to adjust that pour hole in the next one because the resin definitely did not. The resin definitely did not just go right down to that in that mold cavity. So that's okay. That's what we run a test for before we get serious about it. I would do this one too, except I do not have any more resin, unfortunately. I wish I did. I wish we could pour a. I wish we could pour a little bottle, girl. I suppose I could make one out of some clear casting resin. I do have clear casting resin. I don't know if that's going to work out super good though. I would rather use the regular urethane casting resin. Yeah, how about we do that? How about tomorrow's Monday? I'll run over and get some more casting resin. I will hop back on live and do a live resin cast of our bottle girls. And then we will also demold our streamliner and kind of check out the results. But yeah, so far I am pretty happy. We got a streamliner mold. We have a